Philosophy, there is one reality and no other. Namaste. Reality is an eternal discourse in philosophy. It means everything to everybody, and no one knows what it really means. Exploring the manifold meanings of the word, we enter in conversation today with Dr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
So, do we start with the manifold meanings of the word reality?
The word reality is like the word socialism and love. It means everything to everybody, and nobody really knows what it means. Context is that it is used so variedly in so many different contexts to mean so many different things that there is no one meaning of the word, but rather a multitude of meanings of the word reality. Let's look at a few of them. There is an ontological word meaning of the word reality, meaning reality as the first cause, the a priori priori, the causeless cause, the self-existing existent, or in simple words, we can call it God. So one meaning of the word reality is what is the ultimate source of everything. That is reality. That's ontological meaning of the word reality. Then there is another everyday meaning of the word reality, which goes on to say that reality means being practical. So we can use a statement to somebody to say, you are living in your dreams, you are not living in reality. Meaning you are not being practical. The second meaning of the word reality. Third meaning of the word reality is somebody can use a statement to say, he is a man of reality. He is not a man of ideals. Meaning he is a man of the world. He is a worldly wise man. He is a man of the worldly affairs. Somebody who is very dexterous in everyday work, who knows how to move in the world and get things done. Then we have a psychoanalytic meaning of the word reality. And that meaning is in the context of reality acceptance. That in the face of our infinite desires and in the face of our human condition, where frustration is inevitable, how far can we accept the frustrations, especially the intense ones? So there, reality is in the context of reality acceptance, that can we accept, how far can we accept life as it is? Then we have the ideological meaning of reality, which talks about reality as a social condition. So the Marxists will say philosophers have only interpreted the world. The point, however, is to change it. The point is to change reality. So they refer to the social condition as reality and the way the world is, and they want to make a better world, and therefore they want to change reality. And then we have the meaning of the word reality as a hidden truth. We have a meaning of the word reality as a hidden truth, where we say something is obvious, but if we go deeper, we encounter something else, which is the truth. So Sartre talks about, actually opposes this thing. He says the illusion of words behind the scene. But there are many who believe that the truth is behind the scene. So there they talk about the manifest in front of you and the reality behind it. Another word of meaning of the word reality. And then we have reality being used by different spiritual schools to somehow narrate their goal state. So the Advaita school will say everything else that you experience is mithya, and it is only the Advaitic truth, the state of oceanic oneness with the universe, with existing, with everything, being one with the ground of all manifestation, that alone is real and everything else is misleading. The Buddhist school will say the all negating absolute alone is real and everything else is an illusion or something misleading. Not illusion in the sense of delusion, but a secondary truth. And similarly, every school which has its own definition of enlightenment will say that their state is what is reality. And anything that deviates from that state of enlightenment is a secondary truth. Another way in which it is used. And then another way in which it is used is what U.J. Krishnamurti uses, from where we have taken this title. It's actually a U.J. Krishnamurti statement that there is one reality and no other. Meaning, uh, we can try as much as we want by trying to alter our lifestyle, our way of living, create organizations, create resorts, create different alternative lifestyles, be it a hippie lifestyle or Osho lifestyle or Sri Aurobindo's lifestyle. But at the end of it, what is at the root of normal society will creep in there. And it will again, in some essence, convert it into the reality that we already know and we are tired of, and we want to create a new reality. So that's another way in which this word is used, that we as human beings are not satisfied with the reality of life as we experience, and we want to create a better world, a better life, a different reality. And till now, no experiment actually has succeeded on a grand scale, on a larger social scale, and over a long duration of time. So this is the context in which we will be carrying on the rest of our discussion. Reality to signify the essential human condition, which essentially is the same over history, though in specifics it changes.
Context being anchored, we can come to the title then. There is one reality and no other.
So U.J. Krishnamurti makes this statement, and he makes it in the context of those who seek enlightenment and those who want to make a better world. So there are two idealistic movements that we see in human beings. One is at the individual level, second at the social level. That at the individual level, we want to create a new life for ourselves, which is more in tune with our deepest desires, and that is radically different from the social life that we live. At the same time, we want to create a very different society than what we see. So this idealistic movement of wanting a perfect life and a perfect society, that U.J. Krishnamurti says is futile. Because what is at the root of current reality, current human condition is so strong that it will always be what we have, and ultimately whatever we create will reduce down to that thing over a long period of time. And therefore, there is no point in creating these ashrams or Disneylands or whatever we do, because if a large number of us live there long enough, we will convert it into a normal society.
True.
So he says that there is one reality and no other, and that is the only reality we have. And he also dismisses this whole movement towards enlightenment. He says that after he experienced what people normally call enlightenment, he never experienced the ecstasy, the bliss, or the beatitude which people talk about. Rather, his enlightenment was one of great turbulence and was extremely biological and biologically violent. And therefore, he says that those states are actually projected by our mind, that those states don't exist in the long run. And therefore, when we talk about freedom from thought, when we go into bliss, being free from thought, that actually is a projection of thought itself. And there is nowhere to go except to accept the reality as it is imposed upon us. Now, I don't agree completely with him, but there is a lot of substance to what he says and depth to what he says. So, he talks about ashrams. He talks about spiritual communities. He talks about alternative lifestyles, including the hippie lifestyle. And he says that ultimately, in essence, they are all the same. And therefore, there is only one reality and no other.
Is there no hope then of anything better?
Uh, Hope definitely there is, although UG would not say there is any hope. One of the titles of his book is No Way Out. But I do see hope, and many people see hope. The, the roadblock on the way to hope is this, that the difficulties of life, what we in theological terms would call evil, and psychoanalytic terms we would call the psychic difficulties, the core psychic difficulties, they adjust themselves to anything that we create. So like Russia created communism and abolished money, abolished the hierarchy in terms of capitalism, and everything belonged to everybody, and everybody was given minimum clothes and food and medicine and so on. And equality was created. But then the hierarchy kept stepped in terms of the ranking in the Communist Party. And then nobody worked because there was no private incentive. And ultimately Russia collapsed. So this experiment to create an alternate reality failed on a massive scale in Russia, equally true in China, equally true in all communist countries. The same is true in case of all the hippie groups in Osho ashram, in say to some extent Sri Aurobindo's ashram. So you see difficulties everywhere, especially after the leader is not there. So over a long period of time, the groups start getting closer and closer to the average society. And that is where Sri Aurobindo said that as many times we try to create a new man and a new world, it's like water into sand. There's something called this terrestrial gravity, which absorbs any flight that you take of ideals. So the flight of ideals ultimately falls into the quicksand. There is some sort of a psychological, spiritual gravity in the terrestrial sphere. And Sri Aurobindo says that it's only the advent of the supermind which can decisively change this situation. Because still over mind, whatever you create, the evil has the capacity to adjust itself in the new environment. And in psychoanalytic term, if you talk about the same thing, we'll talk about it in
Yes.
a little while. But what Sri Aurobindo says is that if you want to escape this terrestrial gravity and forever make a leap to create a new man and a new world, then the supramental descent is necessary. And if we look at it scientifically instead of spiritually, then we are looking at two things. We are looking externally at laws of nature undergoing a change. And internally, we are looking at complete purification of all the chakras on a mass scale. And unless these two happen, the fundamental human condition cannot change. And we come back to the same thing. There is one reality and no other. So is there only one reality forever and no other? I would say no. Certain things, if they can be done, we can escape this gravity of one reality, which is not a very satisfying reality. But short of that, there is only one reality and no other is true.
I don't know why, if it is tangential to the topic. Parallelly, while you were explaining this, that when the purification of all the chakras and laws of the universe or the planet which we live on, if that applies, can it be seen in this way? Or is this one of the possibilities of what you said? Is when from the Kal Yuga we shift to the Sat Yuga?
Correct. So that is where we believe that the laws of nature undergo a change. Right. And
Right.
there is also an idea in Hindu spirituality that the laws of nature undergo a change uh, in terms of their flavor and value, but essential laws still remain the same, but they get operated in a different way, on a completely different scale of values and for a completely different purpose. There is also
It
a
is a
concept,
cyclic in nature.
but there is also a concept of pralay and mahapralay.
Yes.
So when we talk of pralay, so one is the concept of yugas, which is a shorter duration time scale. Then there is a pralay concept where the Big Bang kind of undoes itself and the universe sort of dissolves or disintegrates and new universe is created. That is a pralay. So there are two ideas that certain destruction and recreation of universe is pralay where the fundamental laws of nature don't change. And there is mahapralay where the laws themselves come up completely anew. So this also is an interesting.
Beautiful. So, coming to the core of it in terms of psychoanalysis and Tantra, how do we view the same as problem, if I may say that?
So when we try to understand the psychoanalytic process understanding of the title, there is only one reality and no other. It's the same question that Einstein had asked Sigmund Freud during Second World War. That for thousands of years we have been shedding blood, and you cannot find 50 years in history without violence, bloodshed, and brutality. So we are an extremely aggressive and brutal species, not to mention cunning, greedy, and other factors also. So what Einstein had said in the Second World War, ki, is there a way out psychologically speaking that this cycle can end? And Freud had said that the forces of aggression, domination, and sadism are too strong for the forces of love, compassion, and understanding. And this power balance being unequal on the side of the difficult forces, we see the same thing going on, and there seems to be no way out. Freud also was a pessimist in one way. So the same thing comes in psychoanalysis, that here we look at the strong forces of inertia, aggression, domination, sadism, envy, and too much anxiety of survival, that unless they are transcended, you cannot have an outer reality which is different. Because the infinity of desire inside and lack of compassion and empathy and sharing with others, these two and the negative forces combined, when you combine these three, the outside is a manifestation of the inside. Not to mention the laws of nature, which act as second factor in manifestation. Okay? So this is the psychoanalytic component of it, that why there is only one reality and no other, because inside we are not able to master certain things which are the negative components of us by the positive parts of us. And Tantra would look at the same thing in two different ways. One is in terms of chakra shuddhi, complete purification of the chakras, that unless this happens on a mass scale, the outside cannot change, because the inside will ultimately create the outside according to its own nature. So that is one. Second, it would talk about the laws of nature in the form of the Srushti Shakti. Right? That goddess, which is the goddess of all laws of nature. And then there is the Adi Shakti, the Tripura Sundari, who is partly beyond manifestation. So unless they two, unless the Adi Shakti agrees and the Srushti Shakti either under the command of it or by its own principle undergoes a change, the world situation on a mass scale cannot change. So few individuals can reach the heights, but the mass reality cannot change. Like in the Vedic times, many of the yogis and rishis at individual levels, they reached great heights, but they could not change the world forever. Neither in their times nor anything in our time. So the permanent mass scale outer change is not possible by individual leap. That's what we get out of it. And this is where the whole idea of Tripura Sundari and the principle comes in the Hindu spirituality. Okay, unless they two agree, there is only one reality continues.
So were Hegel and Marx movements of history also equally fundamental in nature?
Uh, Hegel was more conservative if you come to the deepest part of human nature, whereas Marx was, in that sense, more revolutionary. Because Marx used to say that it is the material conditions which determine the consciousness. And Hegel used to say it is the consciousness which determines the material conditions. But the consciousness was not independent of the individual. It was linked to a mass, a very supreme mass consciousness, supreme, not mass consciousness, but a supreme consciousness he used to call the absolute. So Hegel visualized a world which was incrementally improving and becoming better, more scientific, more organized, but essentially was not very different from the conservative world that we see today. Hegel was essentially a conservative in that sense, but Marx imagined a very different world. And his idea was that if the outside is changed enough, the inside will automatically change. So his idea was that there is one reality is not true. If you can change the outside, the inside can also change, and the two change together will create a new reality. And this one reality is not essentially true. But Hegel was largely in tune with there is one reality, but it's an improving reality. It's not a static reality. And it's moving towards some perfect state or near perfect state. So in Hegel, what we see is the end point also is a form of optimization. But in Marx, we see a kind of a maximization. So the in one sense, Hegel was nearer to the Vedic culture, which is based more upon optimization, waiting for the moment of maximization.
What are we left then as tools of hope?
Uh, there are two ways of looking at it. In the short run, where the inside or the outside cannot radically change on a mass scale, what we are left with is the goal of optimization. And there we need a vision. That how do we optimize? What is the vision behind that optimization? And for that, we require psychological and spiritual tools which can operate at a scale. And we require holistic spirituality, which is very near to what the Vedic culture was and can be with some modifications. That is one part. And the second part is the radical change that we want. And the radical change can come either from being able to change the laws of nature or being able to change the genetic structure of man, or either of them changing on its own, or as Sri Aurobindo says, a supramental manifestation happening. Something of that radical type. So there are two ways of looking at it. Uh, Optimize till a radical change is possible. And for that, create tools and adopt a holistic culture. And this needs at the core spiritual values, spiritual pluralism, and at the surface, contemporary vision. And this is what we have done in one of our discussions of envisioning a vision. Those who are interested can take a look at it. And that holistic basket uh, is something that we can go ahead with.
Original and revealing conversation yet another time. See you again. Namaste.
Namaste.